Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. I'm Anthony Giuliano, and my guest is Jessica Neuenschwander. Jessica, how are you?
So good. You got that right. You got my name.
Most stressful thing I did all day was pronounce your last name.
I want you to know that that's my maiden name. I got married, and I was like, nope, I want to make people suffer.
I'm going to put people through all that.
I need to know if someone really knows me or not.
You have the whole alphabet. Whole alphabet, your last name. I feel like it's almost like Anchorman, where I was like practicing and trying to pronounce it.
Look it in the mirror. We can do this. We can do this.
Yeah. So now that that's out of the way, we can move on. And you have had a somewhat stressful day because your child woke you up at 5 a.m.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have no idea what I'm saying or doing. This is going to be really interesting for everyone, I assume.
Well, you're in good company on this podcast because I have no idea what I'm saying or doing.
Yes. Everybody together. But yeah, so I have a 19-month-old, for those of you who are bad at math, such as myself. It is a year and a half old-ish.
Yeah.
And she's been doing so good. And then this morning, it was like 5 a.m., just like, Elmo. What? Elmo. Oh my God, seriously. And that just became a whole thing. And so then we had to get up and we watched Elmo, and I laid there and like drooled on the couch next to her. And I was like, I don't care about screen time rules. Enjoy your Elmo.
Yeah. Before we hit record, I disclaimed to you that not of my own doing, I'm not going to implicate anyone, 5 o'clock is now, Monday through Friday, my standard wake up time. And literally, there are days, like yesterday was one of them. I got to about 8:30 in the morning. I was like, the day is half over. I have to survive for another 12 to 14 hours. I have to stay awake because I can't go to bed at 4 p.m.
That's
too
the fun
soon.
thing, right? Like in the morning, it's not so bad. You know, by like 10, you're like, all right. I mean, I ate lunch at like 10 and I was like, listen, I need this. But like now I'm looking at you and you've got kind of a halo going on. I'm kind of hearing my words.
And I don't carry that around every day. That's new. That's new. Yeah. So no, it's like you wake up and it's great. Like yesterday, I decided I'm going to work out later in the day. So I'm going to work. I'm going to start working. I start working at like 5:45. And I was doing the Outlook thing where I'm like, delayed delivery. I don't want my coworkers getting emails from me at 5:45 a.m. because they're going to think I'm insane. And they're going to hate me. So I did that, but then I got to like 8:30 and I was like, oh, I'm done because I had no interruptions for 3 hours. I've done all the stuff I wanted to do today.
That's funny that you do that. See, I prefer to delay delivery until like 5:30 a.m. and then it's like, whoa,
look at her.
She's so
what a go-getter.
See, that's a life tip for, everybody out there.
I've used that in the past, and then I got old and stopped caring. I was like, they'll get it they'll get it later. I don't want to bother them. All right, so let's talk about your career path to begin with and how you got to where you are today. So you grew up in Wells County, as you mentioned before we record. What were you thinking about when it came to careers and where did you go from there? Because for some people, it's straight line. I knew I wanted to be in marketing and communication, and here I am. Others are like, no, I was an opera singer, and then I went here, and then I went there.
Yeah, I think I had a very circuitous route to where I am. I grew up in Wells County. I never knew what I wanted to do. There was, everybody around me, I want to be a ballerina. I want to be, I think at one point when I was really young, I wanted to be a professional colorer, color pictures.
I have, when I was 6 years old, we went to like a carnival and they did caricatures of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was a boxer when I was 6 years old.
I mean, there's still time.
And yes. And I don't think I really had an interest. I just panicked. And I was like, what's a profession? Boxer. And there's a picture of me with gloves and it's really silly. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that I have two bachelor's degrees. The first one is psychology.
Okay.
And the reason that I chose that is because I liked the teacher in high school.
100%. Same experience. Yep.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with it at all. I changed my major, I think, 3 or 4 times and just kind of kept going through with the psychology. And then I was like, graduated, and I was like, I don't want to do anything with this.
Yeah. So you finished with a degree in psychology?
I did.
Okay.
And then I came back, and this is another bad reason. Because my friend was an English major.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending this strategy to anyone.
So your career is the result of a series of bad choices.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I also really liked poetry.
Okay.
But I knew that, poetry isn't where the money is. So instead I decided like old English literature, because that's where the money
Everybody
is.
needs
right?
a Canterbury Tales.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. So I studied Renaissance literature. I had my master's degree in like studying. I did my thesis on like expressions of masculinity in Paradise Lost, real deep in there.
I have a few of those myself. The first job that I had out of college, when I moved, this was in Massachusetts, moved to Indiana, the person who replaced me as the certificate of insurance coordinator in the risk management department at the Massachusetts Port Authority, a job just as exciting as it sounds.
I mean,
the person who replaced me had a master's from Harvard in mythology and folklore. Now I just tell people that they had to find a guy with a master's from Harvard to replace me. So I have lived adjunct to and in that world.
Yeah, 100%. And so, you graduate, and it's not like you go to the English factory then and get yourself an English job. So, I came back, but I had the credentials to go on, but at that point I was just I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I need to explore some stuff.
So were you confident that you would figure it out, or were you terrified? Because I had this weird,
all the time.
I have a college degree.
I'm still terrified.
I'll figure it out. I was probably terrified.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't really want to teach. I freelance writing. I've done it. I know that's not going to make a living. And journalism, maybe, but probably not. And I'm like, well, you've just checked all the boxes that you can do with an English major.
I thought about teaching for a while because I feel like I'm good at it.
Because you've done it, correct?
I have, yeah. I taught for about 5 years. Yeah. And I have taught mythology, by the way.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Yeah, useless knowledge. Not useless, totally valuable.
Step aside, Edith Hamilton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But but in the end, it was a lot of grading papers and rough drafts and stuff like that. And that just wasn't where my heart was. I like the teaching in and of itself. That part was just not for me. It's for a lot of people, and that's great. It just wasn't for me.
Once again, very much my experience. Love the teaching, not so much the grading. So you're studying stuff that doesn't necessarily lead to a career.
But as it turns out, psychology and English, if you mix them together, you get marketing. And so afterwards, I had a couple of different jobs. I've always worked in higher education since I graduated. Yeah. I worked at ITT Tech, RIP.
RIP Tech.
Nice. I worked at the library there, like as just someone, as a person getting a paycheck. And then I went to job. I went to in parentheses PFW now. And I really liked that job. I kind of started I did start as a publications assistant, where I would read these super long academic papers and edit them. Okay. And it was really interesting. But we also kind of dabbled in marketing because our office they needed that extra support for programs, and so we fulfilled that need. Okay. And I had some downtime at my second job at ITT Tech, and so I just taught myself Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator. I went on lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning, and I just taught myself all of these skills. Okay. And then it turned out that I was good at some of these things, and I was like, I actually think this is a career that I can both use my degree and also make some money. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, what I experienced, and it sounds like this may be consistent with yours, is that when you're studying language and literature, you're kind of understanding stories and the human condition. And I don't want to overstate that, but it's a way of, okay, I understand how people work. You're communicating, obviously, which the longer I get into my career, the more important I realize that is. And you're problem solving. You're figuring out, okay, I've got all these things to do. I've got to make sense of this. And those are pretty important skills, regardless of what field you go into.
Yeah, and you learn how to research, which you need a lot of, because jumping into my last position and this position, there were huge blank areas in my knowledge. Yeah. And then, you also just, you learn how to learn, which, I was in college for way too long. But that meant that I spent 9 years figuring out how to learn, which really has helped me.
Well, and some of it, I think, is the patience to take on big tasks and to do difficult things that you don't necessarily have to do, but there's a long-term incentive if you do them. That in itself is a skill.
Yeah.
Too much today, and this includes things that I cherish, are quick fixes, but it's nice to kind of say, hey, if I work hard at this for a while, there's a payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you apply that. Let's talk about the jobs you have as you start making your career. You're working at ITT Tech. You're doing this job at PFW, proofreading, editing academic papers. Where do you go from there?
So, and again, we started working a little bit more in the marketing-esque field. So I started designing things. I started making videos. I started doing things like that. And randomly, someone just sent me this job at Ivy Tech. Wasn't like, I didn't really know anything about it, but when I started reading over it, I was like, actually, I'm doing a lot of these things already. And when I was working at PFW, at that point, I was kind of like, my job was a little bit like, I was kind of maybe administrative assistant level. But I kind of wanted to, make more money, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'll apply. One thing that you should know about me is that I'm very good at interviewing. like if there's a skill set for like just being a good interviewee, because I always do, I work really hard on like going above and beyond on like my portfolio. I made like mock flyers. I do all these things.
So does that make you, we're going to digress, but I think it's a healthy digression. Does that make you a tough person to interview with when candidates come in for jobs, do you think?
I expect people to, I mean, maybe not my level of intensity, but recently I actually hired someone recently, and I really, first of all, such a great choice. She's amazing. But like, the things that really impressed me was that, she reached out on LinkedIn beforehand and was just like asking questions, and you could tell that she was hungry for it, that she really wanted it. And she didn't have the experience that maybe a lot of the other candidates did, but I could just tell that this person was going to be reliable, that they were going to be dependable, and that they were trainable.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the person who cares a little bit more, but has less skill, because that's a signal they're going to continue to learn. They're not going to get stuck where they are.
And don't get me wrong, she's incredibly talented and skilled as well.
And let's give her a shout out. Who is this person?
Natasha Leland. I love you, Natasha.
All right. So we will talk about the rest of your team a little bit later.
Yeah.
Don't let me forget to do that.
Back to what I was. So anyway, I got hired.
Yeah.
Long story short, I got hired there, and then I worked. And interestingly enough, that was a job for like media relations, which I had no experience in. I had marketing, like that part, the writing, the like email communications, that kind of stuff. But the media relations, which was in my title, I had nothing there. But I figured it out, and I actually did really well at that. And then, over the summer, back in August, the executive director position opened up, and I was like, I'm going for this. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like some of your experience is people believing in you, even if you haven't done it yet. It's like, Jessica's capable. We're going to give her a chance to do this, even if she hasn't technically done it. Does that feel true to you? So how has it been going from the doer of things 100% to now still doing things but managing a lot of things? What has that transition been like?
It is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. That is a difficult thing for me because I want to do it. I am, if you do the Strengths Finder is like, my number one is achiever because I just want to be the person that does. But my schedule now is just like meetings. People ask me, what do you do? And I go to meetings. I do things too, but I'm in so many meetings, and they're important, they're strategic, but man, I just wish sometimes that I could get in and just like write a communications plan and execute it, So I'm still in the middle of that transition. It is a difficult like headspace to just be like, no, you guys go and do it. Yeah. Well, and it's, there's something I heard about leadership years ago that stuck with me. The person said that when you're in a position, especially at an institution like Ivy Tech where things move really fast and you're asked to do a lot, person said, when you are a leader/manager,
you should only do what only you can do. That everything that comes across your purview, the first question you need to ask is, am I the only one that can do this? And if not, delegate it. Not because you're lazy, not because you're selfish, but because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know when the chancellor is going to walk in your office and say, hey, by the way, we need to focus on this. And it's a career-long challenge to continue to say, nope, they've got it. Nope, that's someone else is better at that.
Yes.
And then to leave to both leave that capacity in your schedule and also be good at thinking ahead. It's like, all right, today the chancellor hasn't walked in my office, so stuff that was going to happen on Wednesday can now happen today.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, that's been the hardest part for me is making that mental transition and I've had like moments of certainly learning moments for me when I'm like, oh, I can do that. And then it's like a month later. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, now I just have to hand it off to somebody. Even, I should have just done that in the first place. So I am definitely learning, but that's probably the hardest thing for me.
So let's talk about the people you delegate to, the aforementioned team.
My team.
And who's on the team and how do you divide those responsibilities?
I have the best team that's ever been assembled anywhere. I don't like the Avengers suck compared to my team. Okay. So I've got Joe Wood, who is my content coordinator. So he he does the videography, photography, anything that we need, really. Joe is there for us.
Really smart content guy. And I met Joe years ago, or actually I don't think I met him, but he was famous on the internet.
Yes, that's
because
true.
of a thing he did at a drive-thru where he wrapped his order.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes,
so
that
go
is
look
correct.
this up. Joe, I think it's Joe Woody is the name he used at the time. It's pretty cool.
I think it's drive-thru wrap is really, you can probably
find it. And that's before other people were doing it. They probably were inspired by him. So you've got a great content person who understands new media, who actually produces that stuff. That's a great asset to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And reliable. And just honestly, my people are good at doing things, but they're also really good at just like having a team mindset. Like Joe is the heart of our operation. Like he keeps us together, keeps us like...
Other than you, has he been there the longest?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that's important.
Yeah. And then I've got Maggie, who is I already mentioned Natasha. I've got Maggie, who is my part-time social media strategist. What's great about her is that she is a student. So she's already out there, and she's a baking and pastry student. So that's just easy content,
Yeah, for sure.
She's really just enmeshed in like the TikTok life, which is great because I'm not. So it's, what you can't do, you find somebody who can do. Yeah. And she's also just, our team just meshes so well. We just have, we are cynical and we, just kind of look at things full on in the face, but we also are just like, all right, we're in this together. Yeah. And I just love that so much.
So you have people who are talented, but who also happen to be good humans.
Yes.
Which is a great thing.
Yeah. Or we're all bad humans, but in the same way.
Yeah. Well, as long as it works. Yeah.
And anyway, Natasha is my media relations person. Yeah. And she's actually from the actual local news.
Okay.
industry.
So she's seen it from the other side.
Yes.
And yeah, I talked over you, so no one will know what you said.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just spilling state secrets. So
that's my primary skill in this podcast is talking over the guests. So talk about some of the things that you're working on, obviously things that you can share. What are some of the big items on your to-do list that you're trying to move forward?
Man, there's, every single day it's what's the most on fire today. I think that's the world of marketing. You don't get into it unless you really are just like, hey, I want to be busy all the time.
Yeah. I want to never feel like I'm done.
Right. And we are, a small marketing team. But the thing about marketing, and this is my personal, this is not Ivy Tech, this is how I feel, is that marketing is, it's not like, oh, we get them in the door and then forget about them. Like if you were at a shoe shop, you wouldn't just be like, hey, come on in and then lock the door behind them and say, try to figure it out. You would help them along the way because the best form of marketing is that one-to-one after they've had a good experience, then they tell someone else about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I really look at our job as like just every step of the way, how can marketing help you? So we're in all kinds of pots. We run commencement. So that's a big thing that we're dealing with right now. Super yay. Very excited and also terrified because it's my first year doing it. But I assume it's going to be just fantastic. And, we do all kinds of stuff. We're working on communication plans, just making sure that people know about the all of the different programs that we have, because we have so many. We have like 54 programs in Fort Wayne that people can take advantage of. But so I really look at it less from a view of like, oh, we're selling this thing, as like, did you even know that we have this thing?
Yeah, for sure. So you've alluded to some of this, but I think everybody recognizes, most people who listen to this podcast would recognize the name Ivy Tech Community College, but how do you describe what Ivy Tech is? What does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, Ivy Tech is really here. I mean, the community in our name is no joke. Like that is really the heart of what we're here for. We're here to support the community. We're here to help drive the community forward through, helping getting our people, degrees, credentials. You just need to take a class, whatever we can do to help people get into better jobs, or also to help support our, fellow businesses. People will come to us and just say, hey, we need to upskill our employees to maybe get them to the next level. And we help that too. So, I think that really we're just here for what does the community need? And we will try to help fill that void.
Well, I think especially right now, I've had the real good fortune to work with a lot of colleges over the years, including Ivy Tech. And there's real challenges to the bachelor's degree model right now because 4 years is a long time. And there's a lot of employers and workers saying, hey, I need a skill. I kind of need it now. I need it to be affordable. And I don't want the same things that other people want when they enroll in a traditional college, or that I wanted when I was that student. So Ivy Tech is really well positioned for that shift. This is a big question, but how are you responding to that? What are you doing to create demand aligned with that? What are you doing to change perceptions about the college based on antiquated ways of thinking about it?
Sure. I mean, that's a big question.
Yeah, but, about 7 questions.
So,
so
how are you going to fix society is the real question here. No, but so, one of the things that we say all the time, maybe too much, but we mean it, is, we're there to meet students, meet people where they are. So, do you need a short-term certificate? We have those. You can finish your certificate in, actually, some of them are as little as like 1 class. This would be for people who just need to get back into the workforce. Then we also have those opportunities for people who want to take their first 2 years at Ivy Tech and they want to go on. Some of our alumni have gotten bachelor's degrees, they've gotten master's degrees, they've gotten PhDs. It's not like you have to stop there, but you can if that's what you need.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it creates entrepreneurs. It creates the things that we all need that I think sometimes we overlook. As someone who is fellow English major who didn't get a job at the English factory, the older I get, the more appreciation I have for people who have real skills, people who can fix water heaters and things that keep us alive. That's really important. And what's always been interesting and fascinating to me about Ivy Tech is how it exposes people to the potential of sort of the career continuum. It's like, hey, you can do something that is based in knowledge work, where you're never going to produce a tangible product. That's a great career path. But welding is super in need, and you can do it. You can get tremendous fulfillment out of that. And we have everything in between. Just depends on what it is you're looking for. And if you don't know, we can help you find it.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to work in a surgical room? We've got that. Do you want to work in visual communications? We've got that. And, one of our challenges, I guess, is that we're too successful sometimes because we will get people that are in the job market before they ever graduate with a credential or degree. So
there was a gentleman who used to work at Ivy Tech, Terry Nolet is his name, and he once said to me that our biggest competition is jobs. People would, even if they love being in school, they'd rather be in a job than be
Which
in school.
is such a great problem to have.
For sure. For sure. Well, it's kind of like, the challenge is you get get measured based on metrics like graduation and transfer. But sometimes for a student, it's super success if they take a class or two and they find the job that they want.
Yeah. A lot of our instructors are industry professionals. So inherently in our programs, there's networking.
Yep.
So, and of course, we want people to be working alongside of, the programs that they're in. In fact, we have things designed specifically for that. We have this program called InFame that's for like high school seniors. Yep. Right after they graduate, they take classes at the same time that they're working for companies like Zimmer Biomet and Steel Dynamics.
Yep.
And after they graduate, they're making way more than I did after I graduated with a master's degree.
Well, supply and demand.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's a program that has its roots in Indiana Manufacturers Association, correct? So this is a industry group saying we need workers.
Right. How do we get them? How do we get them trained?
Yeah. And even providing funding and support for that.
Yes.
And the industry is saying, hey, we need people. I think this is true at every Ivy Tech campus, but you have great partners and investors who are providing equipment.
Parkview is an amazing investor at Ivy Tech, and they will take our people as soon as we graduate them, or sometimes before.
Yeah, for sure. So in addition to saving the world and,
absolutely,
and
100%.
improving society,
I got my cape in my car.
What are some of the other things that you're working on? You've got commencement coming up. That's a big rock to move. Anything else that's on your mind, on your plate?
Sure. We're always looking at, honestly, a lot of what I'm doing, because I'm new, is experimentation. Okay, I've got to make sure that I have the things that we always do.
Yep.
And then I want to see what else we can do out there. So, like, we're working with Asher. Hey, do you know about them?
I do. I've heard they're great.
Yeah. We're working
thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. Here's your plug. To do more specialized, specific types of like digital campaigns, because we have these like really broad, like, just if you Google Ivy Tech, make sure they're at the top of the search, that kind of
brand
thing.
Awareness,
right? Which is important, and we don't want to take away from that, but also we want to make sure that people are actually aware of what we are selling. Well, what we're selling,
Yeah, the audience you serve is so vast that you have to do both. It's like the brand awareness is going to remind families and prospects who are maybe sophomores and juniors in high school, hey, it's not a two path situation where it's either 4-year school or go into a job. There's another way to do it. And then the more program specific marketing is for the person who's like, no, I know what I want to do. I'm just not sure I can do it locally, or I'm not sure I can afford it, or I'm not sure it's going to be fast enough. And you have to, in today's environment, because it is so fragmented, meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Some of them are at the beginning of that. Some of them are really close to making a decision.
And it could be, it can be challenging because you have to look at your audiences, and there are so many different audiences that you have to impact with the message. So, you're looking at parents, you're looking at, you're looking at your primary audience, which is, of course, your potential students, and then you're looking at the influencers of those audiences.
Yeah.
So, every project that we have, we really have to, everything has so much analysis and thought behind it, I hope. And
for sure.
And so, man, there's that's just like the high, and then you got your flyers, you got your all of the day-to-day. Your social media is so important anymore for like the last 15 years. I don't know.
Yeah, these days.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel sometimes. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
Like, the internet is a thing. Like,
yeah. So no, but the other thing that strikes me in everything you're saying is, the number of audiences Ivy Tech needs to reach. I remember years ago, we had a really productive debate about, do we produce materials in Spanish because we don't provide classes in Spanish? Does that send the wrong message? And where we landed was, there's a lot of recent immigrants whose kids would be well served by Ivy Tech. So we're going to speak to the parents in their own language. But it's really interesting to hear about some of those challenges, and really fulfilling to sometimes be involved in solving those problems.
And I will say that we've certainly gotten better at that kind of thing too, in that we've created structures of support for if someone doesn't necessarily speak the language, that we do have at least people that they can talk to through the way. And so we have forms that people can be like, okay, I want to request more information.
Yep.
Especially aimed at parents.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's pivot to a few quick hit questions that may sound like some of the things we've talked about, but that are designed to get to kind of the heart of the matter. So
I'm here all night.
You're going to fall asleep.
I really am. I'm just going to start snoring. You're just going to hear.
People will download this episode. Why is that 9 hours long? Oh, they all fell asleep. So first one is about career path. You didn't have a specific career in mind, but you found something that you seem to like pretty well. You've had different facets to your career within that sphere. What's your best career advice? What's one thing that you think is important to focus on if you want to be successful and fulfilled in your career?
Okay, so I'm just going to go with, what's on the top of my brain here.
Yeah. That's usually the right answer.
Yeah, I know, sure. Right answer, wrong answer, who cares? So, for me, it's all about try it out. I really wish I would have done that. I didn't know what I wanted to go into. And that sounds easy, but it's really hard because, you have to take internships. You have to really get, into there to find out whether or not you like a certain career. Really try to visualize yourself in that career. I did a lot of the wrong thing and I happened to end up where I am. But also, I don't know, and this is just me. I think I probably could have ended up in a lot of different places and been happy. I like what I do. I actually love what I do. But I don't know. For me, it's more about the kinds of things so I could be a problem solver. I could be a creative person. And those are the things that are important to me. It's not necessarily that I went into marketing.
Yeah. Well, and, like a lot of us who start as doers and who move up to more as managers, you kind of experience a lot of different things. And there's a lot of things that are hard to give up, but you could go back to them if you needed to. When you talk about the idea of experimentation, I think that's super important because you don't know until you try.
No.
There's one job on my resume, I really liked the people, but it was bad fit from day one. And I didn't know until I was in the job. The interview went fine. I don't think I'm nearly as good of an interviewer as you are, interviewee as you are. But
no one is. So
it's true. It's true. We've reached the pinnacle. But when I was in that seat, I knew it. But there was nothing that would have told me that leading up to it. And I think we all have to experience that. And then I get here where I've been for 18 years and I knew from day one, I was like, this is where I fit in. So you got to do stuff. You got to try stuff. You can't do everything, but you don't know until you're in it. All right. That's really good advice. So the next thing has to do with your career or Ivy Tech. You can choose your own adventure. What is one thing you want people to know that either debunks a myth or a misconception or that amplifies something that isn't well known enough?
Debunks a myth or misconception. I feel like I'm on some kind of show. All right, the quiz. And now I'm starting to sweat. Okay, well, I think that I'll just go the Ivy Tech route because that's the easiest. For me, and especially when we're looking at myth debunking about the college in general, is that it is only one type of thing. Some people, especially I think maybe older generations, might have known it as more of a trade school. But really, we have so many health sciences. We've got nursing. We've got visual communications. We've got, if you want to start your sociology degree, a psychology degree, really, there's so much for everybody. And it's not just limited to things that people traditionally think of. And the trades are there for sure. If you want a welding degree, you can have it. But
well, am I correct that if I earn a nursing degree from Ivy Tech, I'm going right into, if I want to, I'm going right into a nursing profession.
Yeah,
correct?
Usually, yes.
So, I can move, I can go on to a BSN
100%.
If I want, and a lot of students choose to do that. But it's, as long as you can pass the state exam, you're a nurse.
And
you're ready to go.
Parkview has already hired you.
Yeah.
You just heard this, you thought it, you're hired.
Yeah. You basically...
Now, you do have to get into the program.
I
don't want to say...
You typed an N and you got hired. Yeah.
You do have to, it is a limited enrollment program, so I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. Everyone's going to be like, Jessica said.
They won't be able to pronounce your last name, though.
So I didn't say it.
So who's
Jessica?
So, all right, last question. What is something you use at work? It could be a tool. It could be a hack, it could be a technology tool, though it doesn't have to be, that you rely on that is either well known and you think it still deserves a shout out, or is super unknown and you think should be better respected?
I'm going to go in the middle there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised when people don't know about this, or, Canva. Dude, Canva saves my life every day. I use that. Those quick flyers, that quick design product.
So you spent time as a designer.
I mean, I dabbled.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I have formal training, but...
You were working in Adobe Creative Suite.
Yes, absolutely.
So why do you love Canva? And a lot of designers are like,
I know.
I know it. Sacrilegious to talk about Canva.
So that's why I was like, this is kind of in the... It's not that people don't know about it. It's that they're a little... and probably some of my designer friends are going to kill me. But... It's so easy.
It feels like cheating.
Quick.
It's like this is
I mean,
so
if
easy.
I need something, I'm going to lay it out here, all right? If I need something for the chancellor, that's an InDesign. That's an Illustrator. That's something like that. If I've got hey, we have an event tomorrow and we need flyers everywhere. That's Canva. I'm finding a template. I'm event tomorrow, whatever it is, beach theme, and I'm filling in dates, and there you go. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not going to submit it for an award.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, my job is just we got to get something.
Yeah.
We got to get something. And while I would love to put out the highest quality tier thing, when you are a team of 3 and there are at least 2-3 people on my team that aren't designers.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Joe for sure can live in Illustrator and InDesign all day long.
A media relations person shouldn't be a designer, right?
Yeah. So she can still run in, make an email header. We don't have to bother the people that need to be spending time on more high quality things with that. So that's how I feel about it. I understand that it's not this isn't the wow, this is going to produce art. But it is so helpful for small teams. Yeah.
Well, and in a world where you are always producing content, kind of goes back to what you said earlier, there really is always something else to do. And I think it's actually, and this might be a justification, but it's respectful to the people who really are skilled in the more complex tools to say, you do that is hard. We need that for the really high production value stuff. I'm going to be over here making widgets, design widgets, fast, easy, and they're not going to win any awards, but it's getting the job done.
Yeah. A button for an email. Boop, there you go.
Now,
it's
there are
done.
people who would say that is really important.
And they're not wrong. I don't think those people are wrong. It's just that what time do I have to devote to this?
Correct. And I think it's just a matter of what type of organization do you work in. Do you work at a place where you're doing really 16 different jobs under one job title, or is that all you do is make web buttons all day?
Absolutely. If I had a web button person,
yes,
I would not go to Canva for that. I'd be like, it's in your job title. So
you're the web button person.
Yeah, it literally says it.
Clearly, yes.
Please see.
All right. So if you're an aspiring web button person,
see me.
See Jessica.
I'm sure I've got the money for that.
The interview will be very difficult, but you will have a career.
I'm going to need examples of all the web buttons that you've ever done.
Let's call it web buttonry. How's that? The career of web buttonry. All right. Well, we're getting punchy because we're both tired because we woke up at 5 a.m.
Yes.
So you need to go to bed.
I am going to
go home and go to bed.
I want your audience to know that I'm going to be sleeping.
Okay. Even though this will actually air in about a month and a half, you'll still be asleep.
100%. This is it for me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someone's watching the baby.
My husband can do it.
All right. Well, good. Well, thanks for doing this. This was super fun.
No problem.
And thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.